Be always humble. You, as a leader, are the one that is continuously learning, that must continuously learn. So first of all, embrace the fact that you don't know everything, make it clear, and be open about any suggestion. This will make people feeling comfortable about speaking up about any idea or potential experimentation. Create a safe room for experimentation.
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of Stories from Real Life. I'm your host, Melvin E. Edwards. Thanks for joining me for the podcast where personal stories can have a global impact. As you heard in the intro, our guest today is Italian native Giorgio Natili. Giorgio, welcome to the show.
Melvin, thank you so much for having me, and thanks so much for pronouncing my name right. It's
Whoa, I got
unusual
it right.
in the
Thank
US.
you.
Yo, you got it fantastic.
Nice. So this show is heard so far in 72 countries. So I believe Italy is one of them. Hopefully, Italy's one of them. I think it is. If hopefully you have some relatives who will be listening to this episode, so we can make it 73 countries.
Absolutely. I'll be sure to have this broadcasted into my network so that you will get people from Spain, from Italy. I live also in Spain, so I have some friends also over there. And definitely East Coast and West Coast.
Nice. That sounds great. All right. First question for you today. You used to be a professional windsurfer.
Yes.
How much money does a professional windsurfer make?
At the time I did it, you lose money basically as a professional windsurfer, because how it works, it's pretty simple. When you're at the beginning of your career, you start getting discounted rates on your gear so that you can renew your gear every year. And the discount rate is usually 40-50%. So basically, you make money, that's really a stretch sentence, by selling every year your used gear and renew it right away. Usually the lifespan of a windsurf gear is from 3 to 5 years. So when you sell it after 1 year, considering that you also get it 6 months before everybody else, it's kind of brand new, convenient for the others, and you make a little bit of margin over there. Then you start to facilitate sales in specific shops. You make agreement about discounts that you offer to your friends, the people that you know on the beach, that you know when you are windsurfing, and you start making your career like that. Then if you get really in the top, maybe top 50, top 60 in the world, you start to make some more serious money. But the windsurf career is a passion. I regret a tiny bit that I haven't followed up that career all the time, because I think that the connection with the sea, it's something that is unique. It's something that is unique. It gives you a different vibe, and you have a different set of problems that, to be extremely honest, are nice problems to have.
All right. Speaking of the sea, you even swam with sharks to push past your fears. How scared were you of those sharks before you were able to push past your fears?
Oh, before I was terrified. Basically, every time that you were failing from your board, that it happens often, it depends what you do, which discipline are you doing on windsurfing. The first thing you think is not, is the water cold? Is there any rock? You think, where are the sharks? Where are the big fishes? You know that are there. They are there, right? So definitely was something that was continuously in my mind. And that's why I decided to get rid of this fear. And it was a good experience. I still remember it. I still have everything clear in my mind, what happened that day.
So, did you actually touch one?
No. So I was in Boa Vista, that is an island of Capo Verde in front of Senegal. I asked to my guide, to my local guide, to bring me swimming with the sharks. And I explained why. And the guide said, sure, of course, right? It's over there. You're like talking, oh, I want to really touch that seagull, or I want to see a deer very close, right? They are used to that. So he brought me into this bay where we were seeing clearly big fishes swimming around. And sometimes a couple of fins. Nothing dangerous. They were just there. Or nothing that was looking that dangerous. We put our own mask and we started to walk into the water the closest as possible. And then we started to swim. And I remember that when I was with my head into the water to see the sharks, I was seeing just this circular movement of shades. And I was listening and hearing only my breath. It was really tense, really tense. And that's it. We get closer enough, I think, 3, 4 meters from them. That for a shark, it's a snap. So they can reach you. If they decide to attack, there is no way. But they didn't pay any attention to us. Or actually, I can't tell you because I was not able to see very well their eyes. And then I realized that they have biggest interest than human beings. Of course, shark attacks can happen. I'm not saying that they cannot happen. But then was my break moment, and I started to realize how many times I met sharks after that experience, and I was not scared. I had the opportunity, because I think that there are opportunities to meet very close an hammerhead shark, a tiger shark, angel shark, and I don't know what else it was because I have a picture of me windsurfing, surfing on a wave, and there was the shade of the shark in the
Whoa.
wave. So it was definitely not paying attention to me. So I think it's
I'd still be
fascinating.
scared. I guarantee that.
You know, the only fish that really scares me is the killer whales, the orcas. Although they never attacked any human being, or at least not in the past hundreds of years, they are so smart that I'm worried to find myself close to them. That's really still one fear that I haven't overcome. I moved to Seattle a few years ago, and I did windsurfing over here. Then I see a couple of instances of how close the killer whales come to the coast. Really, we're talking about a few feet away. And since that day, because I really saw them passing on the beach close to in the island where I live, I never went again into the water windsurfing because I don't want to find myself so close to that fish. They will be gentle, I'm sure, but they will terrify me because they are so big. They're big. They're way bigger than a shark.
Well, I'm sure calming your fears of sharks has helped you in the business world, where we have a number of different types of human type sharks. So
Yes.
you've got an upcoming book called The Imperfect Life of an Engineering Manager. It's all about
Yes.
leaders who can, or how leaders can do great things by embracing imperfection, including everybody, and adapting to change. How do you believe, or why do you believe imperfection is the key to achieving excellence in leadership?
Well, I do believe that imperfection, if so, attaining perfection is too much time consuming. It's very easy, or relatively easy, to get to 90%. The last 10% is always the most complex part and complex aspect. And in people management, in general, in business management, there is not a secret sauce to make everybody happy or to reach all the customers. Each of us has preference. As a customer, there is somebody that like buying books at Barnes and Nobles and others on Amazon, right? It's a matter of preference. The title is the same. So is really perfection important? No. I think that there are way more things that are important and make a good leader a great leader, a good business a great business, and so on. For instance, from a leadership perspective, for me, the ability to understand that each of us is different, it's the key. So you can't expect that your message will reach out 100% of your audience if you don't flex your message and if you don't make your message really relatable. And nobody is perfect. Nobody likes perfection. Perfection is a cliche. It's just doesn't exist, or in some cases is pushing you toward a level of attention to the details that is overwhelming and not creating the vibe that a team, that a company need to succeed. On the other hand, if you start to apply the concept of, okay, nothing is perfect, so let's just throw it out and iterate, no, you are lowering your bar, you are lowering your standards. The journey toward perfection is unattainable, but the journey toward excellence is definitely attainable because excellence is not 100% perfect, but is definitely the way to set up high standards of communication, high standards when you relate with your people, when you plan, when you do business, when you're critical, when you question something, when you decide and pick which battles you fight. If you want to be perfect, you have to fight all the battles. You will never succeed. So I think it's way better winning 90% or 80%. There is not a magic number, okay? I'm just throwing numbers out of your battles, the battles that matter, rather than try to get 100% of them as a success. You will fail, you will be frustrated, and you will not do anything good, neither for you, for your team, or for your business.
All right. You talk about being an engineering manager. My son is an engineering manager. He's a mechanical engineer. So what kind of an engineer are you?
I'm a software engineer.
Software.
So there is a subtle difference. Of course, and I have a background in mechanical engineering, so that's my bachelor. So I'm not advocating to having an engineering manager to say, "Oh yes, this car is about perfect," and then at some point, a machinery, a car, or whatever, throw apart. But specifically in software engineering, perfection is hard, if not impossible, to obtain. You can get to excellence because you can have safeguard about whatever you do. And about your son, definitely the angle that I would focus about imperfection is how you manage a plan, how you manage your people, how you create a connection with people. There are managers that think that managing people is okay, given 10 tasks, I distribute the 10 tasks, and everything will be executed. No, that's something that Gen AI can do, distributing tasks. You need to create a connection between their passion, business goals, and customer goals. And that's true in every profession. It cannot be perfect. You cannot get 100% alignment every time. But if you try to get to that alignment, you will lead a team of human beings that by definition are not perfect, that will thrive toward excellence and will raise the bar of everything that they are doing.
Yeah, he's having to learn a lot on his job because he's only 27 years old and he was promoted to manager, and everybody who works in his department is older than he is. So that's been a special challenge for him.
Well, congratulations for the promotion. And yes, I understand which challenge he's facing. It happened also at the beginning of my career. Now, it's happening less, as you see from the gray bear. I'm getting more into the other side. But the important thing is to keep your mind open. The one of the problems that I had when I was at the beginning of my career as a manager, I thought that my high standards about software engineering could be applied to everybody. And I was shocked. Why you don't think like this? And then you learn. People is different. They achieve goals in different ways. And you have to assess the results, not only the way they get there. You can help them. You can help them to optimize the way they get there. That's what a manager should do. You can protect your team from distractions, but you have to rely on their expertise. When you get into the manager track, you are unconsciously making a decision. You are lowering your understanding of your domain and you are expanding your skill set with people management, stakeholders management, conversation, performance, a set of way different skills. And when you do this, you have to start to trust your team that they know better than you what they are doing. So you became the facilitator and not anymore the doer. It's amazing because when you succeed into when your team succeed, you will see a project accomplished that you could never complete by yourself. So the fulfillment is great, but to get there is way more complicated. Individual contributor, they can get some really weekly progress that make them excited. An engineering manager is forward looking, is thinking about 6 months ahead, 1 year ahead, 1 year and a half ahead, and it's completely different journey.
All right. So let's talk about DEI for a second. That's sort of a hot button issue.
Yes.
How can leaders foster a culture of inclusion and belongings with their teams?
Well, the first thing is actively listening. But I want to emphasize that active listening doesn't mean just repeating back what people said or acknowledging what people say. It's making a conscious effort to determine what has been said to you, what you can incorporate in your strategy, so that people can see and can literally observe you changing tiny bit your directions or significantly, depends on the situations, based on what they are suggesting. I've seen a lot of leaders repeating back and say, I hear you, I acknowledge you, oh, but you know what? I'm going still in that other direction. That's not active listening. Okay? First thing, people must be heard. Second, people must be aware that you acknowledge their uniqueness. Their uniqueness is expressed in multiple ways. First of all, pay attention to festivity that might be important for your team. I have right now a team that is distributed between Europe and US, and what I do consistently, it's acknowledging their holidays and letting the team in Europe decide if they want to celebrate the US holiday or if they prefer to follow their calendar. And I acknowledge what is happening. Say, oh, today is Independence Day in Romania. It happened a few days ago. That is making you really paying attention to these small details. Celebrations, festivity are not just an opportunity to be off of work. There is something, right? Third thing is use an inclusive language. It's very important to don't consider your team like a safe space where you can use whatever language. No, that's another mistake that some leaders do. The importance of keeping your language polite. Don't get frustrated, or if you get frustrated, don't get heated at least. Using always the right words. Make a pause to think what is the right word. And if you make a mistake, acknowledging and say, oh, I used a word here that I shouldn't have. Let me rephrase it. That's giving them a clear signal that you are respecting and trying to do your best to respect their communication preferences. You can't be perfect, but they can't ignore the fact that you are really going toward them and say, hey, I'm doing my best. I want to be as much as inclusive as possible. The other thing is taking deliberate actions. Right now, I have 3 managers in my team, 2 are women. When you recruit for a new manager, there is nothing wrong in speaking with your recruiter and saying that you want to meet and listen and interact with candidates that come from different ethnicity, genders, sexual orientation. You can make an explicit request. Doesn't mean that you have to favor one versus the other, because then you're becoming non-inclusive on the favoring diversities, but you have to listen to more than that. We are hiring some entry-level engineers. We had a loop of 4 interviewers, 4 candidates, split in half, 2 men, 2 women. Perfect, right? You listen to both of them. Guess what? We hired 2, 1 man and 1 woman, right? So, but that was not the intention. So take some small actions. Acknowledge the Pride Month. Acknowledge Juneteenth. Acknowledge festivity, celebration continuously. And the last thing that you can do to really speak about DNI is to don't stop talking about the DNI. So also when you are in a meeting, if there is an hot topic, bring it up. By keep talking about it, you are signaling really clearly to your team and to your people that you care about it.
Okay, that all makes sense. All right, we talked in the beginning about you being from Italy. So, what lessons have you learned from moving from Europe to the United States, and how has that impacted your leadership style?
So many, but the most important one was exactly about diversity and inclusion. When I moved from Italy to US, I was impressed about the effort that companies and people was putting in diversity and inclusion. Inclusive languages, pronouns, everything struck my attention. And I was thinking that um, was even too much. So my bias at the time was I come from Europe. In Europe, we don't have all these problems. We have a way easier way to go after things. We make jokes. Everybody is happy. And then a few things happened. Once, after 1 year and a half that I was in the US, I was spending time with organizing a meetup in Boston, a pretty popular meetup. And uh, I had at some point a slide to open the meetup with a summer image. We are getting closer to summer. So, what is the typical summer image? A car, a beach, a woman in bikini. And my intention was absolutely good. I saw few of my guests. I was doing this with a meetup of another meetup led by a set of wonderful women in security. And I saw their face and I saw, well, there is something wrong here. I think I've done something wrong, but I was not sure about what I've done wrong. So the day after, I sent an email and I said, I don't know what I've done wrong, but I can clearly see that your face were not happy. She explained me what I've done wrong. And I answered back to my mail, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that. That was my aha moment when I started to see that uh, not paying attention to these small details and to also to the big details of diversity and inclusion was wrong. And also simply making a joke that is absolutely the norm in Europe is not inclusive and it's not okay. And since then, more than a decade ago, I stopped to make jokes. I corrected all my friends. If a friend of mine in Italy make whatever joke about whatever diversity, they say, "Oh, that's not inclusive." And sometimes they say, "Oh, come on, you're calling out us again?" Yes, I call out my relatives, friends, everybody, and I speak continuously about this with my kids. When I hear something that is not inclusive, we speak about it. I say, okay, you see that? That's not inclusive, and explain the reason why. So that was my biggest shock. And the other thing was that I was believing, honestly, that racism was an exaggeration, but then I have been also attacked because I was Italian. So people have been racist with me, honest, openly saying, I'm gonna come under your house and kill your family. You,
Wow.
whatever bad word Italian. Say, really? Oh, and then that was another aha moment. That was in 2017. See, oh, okay, it's not only such a strong thing, it's also very violent. And doesn't matter if you are white, if you are a person of color, doesn't matter. You get targeted as soon as people want to find something to go after you and to go something to go against you. Because if you're doing the right things, sometimes you make noise. And if you make noise, you get under attack. And that was really striking my attention. And then if you think about what happened in the past 7 8 years, starting from 2020 George Floyd episode and everything else that happened, it's really bad. The world is definitely diverging back to a situation where racism, violence, um, is kind of the norm, and that's not good at all. It's something we have to fight with all our small gestures.
I agree 100%. We could probably take the whole episode to talk about that, but there are several other topics I want to touch on with you. And the next one being the topic of AI. So, what's the biggest ethical challenge in AI today, and how can we address the challenges?
There are many. In my opinion, one of the biggest is how your data get used by AI. You easily lost track and control over your data, and these pose both ethical challenges, and of course, expose people to risks. So if you go on whatever LLM and you ask about yourself, the LLM knows a lot about you. This means that anyone that can want to harm you in whatever way can spoof your data using an LLM and understand who you are, where you live. Your data are already there, so the LLM is just doing its job. Um, that's important. Data privacy, data sovereignty are exposing people to enormous risk. When you accept the privacy policy of whatever tool you use, you should look very carefully because the usage of your data can really expose you to risk. And on the other hand, business should be ethical about it, should be clear, transparent. There is a concept that is very important to me that is explainable AI. They should be able to explain what AI is doing with their data, with your data, and how data sovereignty is kept between every different system. Simply think about agents. Autonomous agents are exchanging data. If they are exchanging sensitive data, they are basically disseminating your information everywhere. Also, if the model is not trained on your data, but just on biases and weights, what happens is that the weights and biases stay in the model. And there are techniques to reverse engineering that. So if a model, for some reason, leak or get compromised and an attack succeed, your data are potentially at risk. So the ethical challenge is, first of all, how data are managed and what is the ethical usage that is done of your data. The underlying problem is also that the industry right now is thinking that AI can replace human being. It's partially true. There are tasks that AI can do faster than you. But the challenge that I'm observing is that a lot of companies are simply thinking, oh, which AI can I use to replace this individual? That's a good business approach. I don't think so. You should look at which AI you can use to augment your people, to augment the productivity. That's the other ethical challenge that we're having. Also, because think about a simple example Uber. A few years ago, Uber was so cheap. You were going from one point to another with few dollars. Okay? Then we get to use it. Now Uber is expensive. It's something that is more expensive than a taxi, than a cab, but has a lot of benefits. AI will do the same. Right now, AI is relatively cheap. At some point, AI tools will cost not like a human being, but maybe a quarter, okay, of a human being. So you're really not doing a great thing to your job. Cutting out to your business to cut out people. You should understand how you can augment them, and you really don't need to fire people for AI because if you can augment the productivity of your people, you can propel your business. Now, if your business is not a business that is worth to be propelled, that's a different question. You should rethink your business. But that ethical consideration should be in the mind of every leader. Augmentation versus replacement.
Why do people find themselves forming unexpected connections with AI?
Well, there is a lot of people that is humanizing AI. It's natural. It's part of the learning curve of using AI. Think about the bias that the software itself it's creating in your brain. The most popular is ChatGPT. What you do on a chat? You chat with human being. So your brain is really telling you are talking with somebody, and it's not true. So I found myself at the very beginning of my journey of using LLMs to say, please, do you mind? And I thought, it's cute, right? I'm respectful of, then I realized, no, I'm respectful of nobody. That's just a large language model. That's a bunch of algorithms. So I'm not advocating to treat poorly AI, but I'm neither advocating for humanizing AI. There is a very big difference. So use it. It will augment your productivity on every field, but being also the subject matter expert. AI cannot be the subject matter expert. If you look at the output carefully, if you have experience in the field, you'll spot so many errors. So why is it saving you time? It's saving you time because it's generating faster the content. You don't focus anymore about the cleanness and the perfection of every single sentence, but on the general message. But you must be the subject matter expert. So don't humanize it. It's not your best friend. It's just a tool.
All right. How do you balance innovation with privacy in confidential AI systems?
So that's the reason why I joined the company I currently work for. I work for Opaque, that is a company that is specialized in building AI workflows on top of confidential computing. Confidential computing is a different way of computing where you can ensure through several hardware root-based verification that data are never getting compromised, neither when they are in use. I think it's important to start to migrate everything we do on confidential computing because it's significantly changed the security posture of any system, specifically with AI. So right now, my team is working on a confidential LLM, meaning the LLM is deployed on confidential computing, and having several workflows interacting with that LLM. It's a game changer. The LLM itself, although it's bigger, you have backups and everything, it's hosted in a confidential virtual machine that we manage in such a way that if there is a single variation, meaning an attack, a port that is open, an HTTP request that was not expected, we send the CPU in panic mode. That means the machine crash, so data cannot leave. So it's a game changer. You can do many things. Think about healthcare. When you have hospitals that want to expand a specific research and they want to mix data, they can't from a regulation standpoint, but through confidential computing and through specific workflows, they can use data and actually a synthesized version of the data to build algorithms, additional models, scripts that massage this data. And then when they go in execution mode, data stays encrypted. And when they are unencrypted, they are in this confidential virtual machine that is unbreakable or immutable. There are extreme cases where you can reach, of course, you can break it. Nothing is 100% secure, but it's dramatically more secure. Neither the cloud service provider can access to that data without having a key. And the key is owned by you. So if you leak the key, of course, they can access the data. But if you don't, it's really unlikely. And I think it's a fundamental shift in the paradigm of AI where you can respect privacy, data sovereignty, and regulations. In Europe, there are way more regulations about AI and are way more strict than in the US. And I think it's a good thing. Now, it's impacting the innovation. Sure, of course. The more regulation you have, the more things you have to look after. But if you embrace the movement of confidential AI, you can be compliant with, let's say, 90% of the regulation with no effort. And this means that innovation is not, or no effort or very minimal effort. That innovation can still go with a very high pace. And on the other end, that people data should be protected. And think about the ethical and the ethical implication. There are tribes that maybe are leaking their information into an LLM without knowing. Think about just all the LLM that generate images. If an LLM generate an image based on art that has been produced by a tribe that is unaware of it, They are making money to somebody else. And that's not okay. Plus, they are exposing their roots, their culture unconsciously. So, with confidential AI, you can protect many different actors, I would say, of this new revolutionizing landscape that AI brought to us.
How can leaders encourage experimentation and adaptability in their teams?
Well, first of all, they should be open minded and never say, I have done this in the past, let's do it again. You are basically shutting down everybody's willingness to try new way of doing business. Can be new way of building software, but can be also new way to organize the team or simply organize the office. Be always humble. You as a leader are the one that is continuously learning, that must continuously learn. So first of all, embrace the fact that you don't know everything, make it clear, and be open about any suggestion. This will make people feeling comfortable about speaking up about any idea or potential experimentation. Create a safe room for experimentation. Sometimes I run what I call a crazy eight session with my team, 8 minutes to write down on a small piece of paper 8 crazy ideas, and then we mix all of them together and we speak about it. Sometimes we get nothing, sometimes we get something. And then it depends on the context, right? If it's a very customer facing product, like when I was working for Kindle, that's way easier to get a good idea or a good experiment out of it. An example was how we changed the algorithm to manage widow and orphans at the beginning and the end of the page that improved dramatically the readability of the book on a digital surface. In AI and confidential AI, it's way more complicated. But for instance, one idea that came out of these crazy eight sessions was to change the implementation of a tested TLS. That is something we're going to release in July 2025. That is a game changer because it's giving you the possibility to attest the services that are communicating with your system, basically increasing even more the complexity to break this the security model of your application. So be open-minded, create whatever works for you and for your team. Crazy 8 is just an idea. You can use whatever. And make it fun. Advocate for the fact that there are no bad ideas. There are just ideas. And that from whatever idea, you can generate some innovation and something new.
All right. So, what advice do you have for leaders facing setbacks?
Well, it depends on the setback. But when something is not working as you expected, it means that you made some mistake. So be self-critical. First thing, it's not your team that failed. It's not another department or another company that created a setback for you, but it's most likely you that were not listening, observing, and making space for others, or simply hiring the right people for your business to succeed. So take a moment, reflect, and try to understand what you could have done better. If you really are short on ideas, ask anonymously to your team. You will get some ideas, no worries. Because again, um, management is not a popularity contest. You will not make your team 100% happy never. And in front of a failure, they will tend to open up. So listen, try to understand what it is, and adjust. Quickly, yes, but not fast. Quickly enough to support your business, but not fast, not too fast to prevent you from deep thinking about what is your next move. As a leader, doesn't matter the size of the team, the size of the company, every single move that you make will shape your company, your team, your organization. So be extremely careful. Our brain is designed to react instinctively. especially in situations where you are experiencing a setback or danger or fear. Step back, take the time you need. Don't send that message right away. Don't send that sentence right away. Don't answer instinctively to to your fears, but be assertive and think a tiny bit slow to act quickly and not too fast.
All right. So, on something a little less serious, tell me about your DJing passion.
Well, DJ passion is very long, very something happened a long time ago. So when I was doing the professional windsurfer, I also started to organize events. Organizing events in Rome at the time meant that you were taking care of public relationship, inviting people, giving a design, a mood, a theme to whatever event, and you were starting with the music, picking up the DJs. And when I was picking up the DJs, I was also spending time with my DJs to select the music, not the entire music, but I was going to the record shop. At that point, there were only vinyls and picking up the music that we wanted to use for a specific event. That brought me to unconsciously learn a lot about DJing and sometimes being the backup of my DJ if they had to eat the bathroom or take a break for whatever. At that point, smoking cigarette was absolutely normal, right? So if you had needed to take a break, there was always Giorgio that was ready to back it up. And then this passion stayed with one of my past jobs. A few years ago, um, we throw a party for my daughter and other kids, and we hired a DJ. And I was so disappointed about the result of this DJ. And it was New Year Eve. The year after, I decided to buy a small DJ controller and do it by myself. And I had so much fun. Now I have a very big DJ controller, a DJ sampler with which sometimes I play live and I generate EDM music, so house music, soulful, deep house, and so on. And now I go to whatever party my friends are doing. I show up with my equipment and I mix. Sometimes I go to farmer markets. I do other events. It's not my business, but I love it. Brought back so much joy because now I'm continuously listening and searching for new music. And I started again to work with background music when I'm writing a document or when I'm writing my book. And music really put you in the right mood. There is, it's unlikely that music can really bother you. It's just a mental model. And I think it's also expanding connections with people. I'm making new friends. So that's the outcome. And I think I will never stop again.
That sounds like fun. Do you have a DJ name?
No, I still go by my name, Giorgio Natili, and I publish my DJ stuff on Instagram. So Instagram is the only the thing that I keep for the fun stuff, and LinkedIn for the professional stuff.
You need a DJ name to make it cooler, like just DJ Giorgio or DJ Natili.
I can.
Or we can work on some variation of that.
Or if your audience has a suggestion, please send it over.
Okay, that sounds good. We'll see what we come up with. So, as a final question today, what bit of advice would you like to leave with the listeners?
The world is definitely going into the direction that many of us were not expecting. Also, if you think that you were expecting some changes, these changes are not happening in the right way. There is no respect for human being. Be the first ambassador of respect. Be the first one that understand that everybody can have a bad day. Try to be empathetic in whatever you do and bring a little bit more of love in whatever interaction you have with whoever you speak with today.
That's great advice for everybody. I highly recommend that. And thank you for the reminder. So,
Thanks
our
for
guest
the
today has been
opportunity.
Giorgio Natili. Giorgio, thank you so much for being here today. I enjoyed this conversation.
Likewise, Melvin, thank you so much for having me and feel free to Have me any other time.
All right, that sounds great. Please go to my website at podcastreallife.com for more information about my guest and the things we discussed today, including his upcoming book. That's it for today's episode of Stories from Real Life. Join us again next time for another chance to learn from each other. Until then, don't forget to shine your light wherever you go.